So hi, my name's Shanta Brandt Larson and welcome to the Motherhood Unplugged Summit 2.0. The summit is basically about 5 years worth of research which identified what makes our children happy in the future, what makes them successful, and success being happiness. And the two main things which came out of that were A, quantitative piece of research about all those different factors, and B, the qualitative. And in A, the quantitative, there were data points in terms of correlations with fathers, correlations with different activities, and correlation with mothers. The strongest statistical correlation was with mothers. So then obviously taking that forward in terms of working with mothers, one of the key barriers that they faced was actually challenges around time, challenges around how to communicate, transparent communication, challenges around building relationships with their children. So there were different things specific to motherhood in this generation, and that's really the purpose for the conference. So it's for mothers for this generation to reclaim their health, their happiness, and their time. And that's why I've invited, Molly Claire. And there are some key things. Best-selling book on the happy mum mindset. And B, I think you really come from a point of view of all of your mistakes and your non-perfection, and that non-perfection, that authenticity, and you bring that into your life coaching. And that's really important that in this generation, we're not hung up on being perfect because we very much play multiple roles. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
So great to be here.
So I think the first question to you is what do you love most about being a mum?
I would say what I love most is just getting to know my kids. And because they come to you so different, right? They're so unique, and I just love watching them and seeing the people that they are and watching their strengths come out. And just my kids are so very different from each other, and I just love that. I feel like it's a gift to be able to be a small part of them becoming who they are.
And you have girls, boys? How old? What's the ages?
I have a 15-year-old boy and then a 12-year-old boy. He's almost 13. And then I have a little girl who will be 7 in just a week. So yeah.
And actually, one of the things in the research that you obviously come up against is ethically, every child is unique. So of course, patterns for success, but that's not just to say, well, you need to do this with this child. You need to respect the uniqueness of each child. And so that's really important. And even within, a household, they're very different, because I'm a twin, and we're completely different personalities. What challenges did you face? Actually, step back from challenges. When you became a mum, how did that define you? Or did it define you or redefine you?
Well, I feel like over time it's definitely redefined me, just because, before having kids, I felt like I was pretty good at things in general, right? I knew how to do life. I knew how to do me. I knew how to figure things out. And then, when you have kids, it's like you do have these different personalities, right? Mm-hmm. And you're charting completely unknown territory. You don't know, we have no idea what we're doing. And everyone has a lot of opinions and advice, but, kind of as we've already talked about, your kids are also unique and different, that there is no one path, really. And so I don't know that I'm kind of rambling a little bit.
No, but you're talking about the change, but how did that define you? So it came from a sense of, it was all about, you found it very easy just looking after yourself, and then everything became, there's not such a clear path, and there were these other little human beings or lives in the equation. So how did that redefine you?
Yeah, I guess I would just say for me that it's been, over time, it's allowed me to really change who I am and become more, hopefully, of what I would want to be, right? More of someone who has patience, who listens, who's able to think about things differently, who's able to just problem solve better, and ultimately almost be a more resilient person in my life and a more whole person in my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you wanted to get to that. Why did you want to get to that? What changed?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Why did you want? So you were getting towards a different version of you, or a more truer version of you. What changed that made you want to do that, or what was it that was driving you towards that?
Well, I think that it's when we do things in life that are challenging, right? There's always a way to get out of something that's challenging, or to take an easier path, right? We have that option. And obviously we do have that option when it comes to motherhood, but most of us are going to stay the course, right? We're here, we're in this, and it's something that's so important to us, and we want to do a good job that I feel like it's just a matter of, because we're staying the course in motherhood, so that when the challenges come up, there's not really the option of walking away or turning a blind eye to it. We have to keep going through it. And so it's almost like it forces you to become a better and different person, just inevitably through the process.
Okay. Now that's good.
That's just my thought about it. So.
That's why I was delving. Okay. And so becoming a mother and changing and redefining that and getting closer to you, was that the journey into the coaching, or when did you start the coaching and your mission?
Yeah, so I started I've always been into self-help. I've always been interested in people, in relationships, and, that kind of self-help realm, I guess. And it was about 4 years ago that my sister actually turned me on to the coaching model. And I always knew that I wanted to do something where I helped others, where I could serve them. And I knew I wanted to have something that was the ultimate in being there to raise my kids and also having a business. That flexibility was something that I'd always been searching for. And so for me, when I started doing the coaching, I found these coaching tools, and it started to change my life and how I experienced everything in terms of my relationships, in terms of being a mom, in terms of how I felt about myself, right? The beliefs, what I believed was possible for me. And so as I started my coaching practice and I started working with a lot of moms, I found these common threads that I could relate to, and things that these are what I call in my book, like the mom traps.
So what are the mom traps?
What's that?
What are the mom traps?
Okay, so there's 7 of them, and so I have to always think in my brain. I have to remember and go through them sequentially. So one is believing that we are always on call, which you've talked about with time, right? We feel that pressure that we should always be available. We spread ourselves too thin. We say yes to everything. So kind of those mom traps around time. And I'm going to kind of go through these quickly because, sure. I could keep you here all day talking about them, right? But another one is mom autopilot, which is really just when we're not intentional about how much we're taking on, even in terms of when our kids are upset or having a problem, we are automatically taking on their problems as ours to solve. Okay. Right?
I get that.
What's that?
I get that. You probably also add the husband into the equation as well. I get that.
Yeah. It's just this automatic reaction. And it causes us to be overwhelmed and stressed out because we're taking everything on all the time. And we kind of have to do that when we first have a brand new baby, right? We are on call, and we have to have that quick response to everything. But then over time, we want to slow that down a little and create a little bit of a pause in terms of what we're taking on.
So saying yes to everything, going on to autopilot, and the others?
Mom comparison, which we're no stranger to in every area of our life, right? Yeah. Comparing to other women. Mm-hmm. It's a huge one, and gets in our way of really appreciating that we're the perfect mom for our kids.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter what my neighbor is good at or what she's amazing at doing. It has nothing to do with my ability to parent my kids.
Okay.
Next up is believing we should make our kids happy, or that we can make our kids happy. right? This is where we bend over backwards, we overextend, we overspend, and we are really trying to manage our kids' emotional lives. And the best thing we can do really is manage our own emotional lives and stand in a place of us being happy and confident and all of that, which is what, of course, I help my clients do, so that we're in a better place to support our kids. But our kids are going to have their own emotional ups and downs, and it's okay. Yeah. Okay, next up, believing that we're responsible for making our kids succeed. This is a big one for the overachievers, right? And to your point that you mentioned earlier, a lot of times success just means them being happy, right? We want our kids to have a happy life. And so we end up trying sometimes to micromanage, or we become more controlling, trying to make success, inevitable for them. And the more we're trying to create success for them, the further away they are from it, because they have to be able to fail.
And I think in some respects there's a societal pressure there, because I remember when I was shaping the doctorate with my dean, and I had a lot of pushback on the definition of success. And it was not to include happiness. But if you do a lot of the research and you look at, business, those that are satisfied with life are actually more successful, or those that are happy. And so I had to go through the literature, through the research to prove that this does need to be in there. But society's version of success sometimes is putting value on, someone's job title, how much money they earn, those things like that. So that achievers piece. But really it's dialing it back to, what we've just discussed, which is it could just be as simple as being happy. That's it. Okay, sorry, I was just adding that in because I think there's this insertion of what success is, and there's a societal shift that needs to happen for the generation to stop thinking about success in those terms, but to think about happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think every woman will define success for their kids differently. For me, I want my children to be contributors to society. I want them to be kind to people. Yeah. Right? So when they're not, I get really mad, right? And then I'm not very kind. What's that?
I measured that too.
Right? Yeah, it's so important. And and we are there to help them. We want to set them up for success, but it's so important for us to really allow our kids that space to figure out what success means to them and allow them the space to be able to achieve it on their own. And that's going to include some failure. Yeah. We have to be okay with it. Yeah. The next one is being a victim of motherhood. This is such an ugly one. No one wants to read about that.
For our summer audience, what does being a victim of motherhood mean?
So it's so easy for us to, because we do take on so much as moms, for us to kind of get stuck in this place of, it's not fair, and why do I have to be the one to do all of this? Why do I take everything on? Why can't he help me out more, right? Referring to your husband, or and really when we get in that place, in that headspace, it's such a negative space for us to live, and it feels really terrible. And it's really important for us to really see all of the things we do as choices, because we have chosen our life. And if I'm taking on cleaning up after people, then I'm choosing to do that, right? And so it's fine if I don't want to do that, but when it's such a negative cycle that and believe me, I see this in myself as well, where I have to remind myself, this isn't a healthy space for you to be. So it's really taking that, not staying in that place of having a pity party or saying it's not fair, why me?
Yeah.
Just deciding what you want to do and saying, I'm choosing to do this, or I'm choosing not to do it, and maybe things are going to be a mess.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then the big one, which is really, I feel like, the one that ties everything together and is kind of woven throughout all of the traps, in my book, is that of not taking care of ourselves.
Self-care, yeah. That actually came up a lot as well.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think that, we think sometimes in terms of just the foods we eat or physical exercise, but it's so much about the way we talk to ourselves. And I know you have an interview with another woman in the summit who talks a lot about that.
Yeah, about inner voice, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so important to have a good relationship with ourselves and to really cultivate that belief in ourselves that we are adequate, that we are enough as a mom and as a woman. And so just really, that trap right there, I feel like is really underneath it all, because when we have a healthy outlook on ourselves, when we have a good relationship with ourselves, when we take care of ourselves, we take care of our personal time, when we do all of that, we're set up for so much success in terms of happiness, right?
Yeah.
And success with our kids.
I think those 7 things are very important for this generation. You're hitting upon the things that have actually come up in the research about how people do that and what they take forward. So you actually went from coaching to the book. How did you grab these opportunities, or you always had it in mind to write a book and get out there?
Yeah, so when I wrote the book, it was something that I really didn't want to do it because I knew that it would be really hard. But I knew I had to do it because I was coaching women and I was doing coaching groups, and I would work with these women and I would see the difference that it made for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I trained coaches through the life coach school, and I would be there with a pool of, women in all these different circumstances in life. And everyone that had kids, one of these traps would come up, and I would feel like I know exactly what they need. I need to jump in and help them.
Okay.
And so the book for me was really about me realizing I have to get this out there. It's going to help so many people and relieve so much suffering. And these women who are doing such a great and amazing thing being a mom, they're working so hard, they're doing so much, and I really just wanted to give them something to help.
So actually, it was really almost like your own research and gathering these repeated conversations that you have with women to apply that to very much across the enterprise level to other women, to say these are the things that people are challenged with in this generation, and these are the tools, these 7 tools, or these 7 things that I'm hearing that would support. Are there any? Those are the 7 things. Are there any key tools that can really resolve those things, or is it always coaching, or are there other things that people can do to resolve those 7 challenges?
Yeah, so I believe, for me, my personal experience is that the coaching process that I do is a process of helping people understand the way they're thinking about things, mm-hmm. and what those thoughts are creating in terms of our thoughts create our feelings, mm-hmm. our feelings drive our actions and create everything that happens in our life, every result. And so I offer in the book some things where you can talk about tools or things that you can do, right, okay. to make changes. But the ultimate change really is about seeing what's happening in your brain and what your perspective is.
Okay.
And so in each chapter, I talk about some of the mind shifts, some of the perspective, however you want to term it, right? The mind shift, a paradigm shift, new ways of thinking, and I offer some of those because I really believe that you can try to make changes and you can kind of white knuckle your way through making changes and doing that. But if you can have a shift in the way you're thinking about the whole situation, it becomes easy. Right? Then you ease into the process of doing things
But how does someone have that shift?
So when I think that, I mean, I'm beating around the bush because I feel like they need to work with me.
Okay. So they need to work with basically you to really unlock what is that, what's holding me back, or what to really understand what's going inside their brain.
Yes, exactly. Because it's when you can really have that. And I have my clients a lot of times do thought downloads where they're just going to write down everything that they're thinking.
Okay.
But I spend a lot of time with them helping them sort out the difference between their thoughts and the facts about the situation, right? Because so many moms, they come to me and they have this constant thought of, I'm just a terrible mom. Okay. I'm just not doing a good job. Right? And they have this deep fear of inadequacy. And what they don't realize is that when they think, I'm a terrible mom, they feel inadequate.
Right.
And when they feel inadequate, what they do is they end up getting after their kids. They yell at their kids. They're not present. And they're actually taking action that proves to themselves this original belief that they're a terrible mom.
So kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're reinforcing that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So this is the process that's happening for us all the time. We're constantly like acting out these self-fulfilling prophecies. And so what I do with my clients is I really start looking at the thought patterns they have. And when they can see that, for example, when I can see, just like I just shared with you, that me believing in the first place that I'm a terrible mom is creating this result here with my kids, then I can suddenly see that thinking that is not very helpful. And what other ways are there for me to think about this?
Okay.
And it's more than just thinking positive or replacing thoughts. It's really the process that I go through with my clients is helping them to really understand that the way they're thinking about things now is a choice.
Okay.
And it's a choice that's creating something in their reality, in their relationships.
Okay.
Right? So when I see that I'm making a choice that's creating something negative, I'm not going to want to make that choice anymore.
And you can change that. You have the power to change a choice.
Absolutely. And so, and when we start changing our perspective and these brain patterns, it can be clunky at first, right? It's like you've thought this way your whole entire life, and now you're having to think totally differently. But over time, you create new neural pathways. You create new go-to thoughts, and it becomes a new way of life, a new way of thinking. So I hope that clarifies a little bit.
That does. So I think the happy mum mindset is really getting you thinking about what kind of traps are you falling into. The coaching is really then unlocking that and understanding and reprogramming your brain and understanding your language and what you're saying and the choices that you decide to make to change that. So you've done those two. They're actually two big things. What are you focusing on now?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing a mom mastermind, which is an online group that starts in November.
Okay.
And it's
November what? Because the summit launches November the 5th, so tell us more. When? Which day?
Yeah. So it actually starts November 1st, but I will have a place on my site where people can get on a wait list for the next opening. And when I get enough, interest, then I open a new one. Okay. So it's essentially, because I have the book, here's my book that we've been talking about, and I keep it with me all the time. It's like one of my children. And I have a workbook as well that goes with it. And so I'm helping women take the book and take the workbook in the group setting. Okay. And we're moving through all of these traps and helping them how to apply it in their life personally. And, and doing the coaching on a group level, which is really powerful to see it work in other women's lives too.
Wow.
So that's a big thing. And then as I had mentioned to you when we had talked before, I'm also this year so excited to be offering some new programs for recently divorced moms. Okay. Women who are entering the world of being a single mom. This has actually been my life for the last 3 years. And it's like the same thing that happened with my book. I see these patterns, I see what happened, and I had to put it out there and help. And now this is like my new quest to really help these women because they really feel like they don't have a lot of places to turn, and people don't understand what they're experiencing. And so
what have you experienced?
Oh, okay. How much time do we have left on the interview? We're running out. Oh, it's there are a couple different sides to it. One is, going through a divorce and healing from that, and really having to decide now, what do you believe about yourself? Because over the course of a marriage, you collect certain beliefs about yourself, and a lot of these end up being negative.
Okay.
And so really helping these women to, and you can hear I'm getting a little choked up now as you're asking me about this, you know. But because I've been working with other women going through this, and just the beliefs they have about themselves, it's a sad thing to carry those beliefs with you.
Okay.
And so I think a big part of it is really reclaiming how you feel about you and who you are and the person you want to be.
Okay.
And then of course the other part of it is stepping into being a single mom and having all of those thoughts swirling in your head about what are other people thinking? They don't understand. I feel so much pressure. Can I really do everything my kids need for them now as a single mom? And so it's all of those fears about our kids and of inadequacy, just kind of now it's gone up a notch.
I was going to say, actually, what you've just described is you almost have to redefine yourself because you become a different you. And a lot of the things that you just talked about were the 7 truths, like comparison, all of those things, they kind of resurface but in a different way because you've changed. Your whole situation has changed. So the truths become different, and there's a need to kind of reprogram, with a different lens, because you're different. It's very powerful. And don't worry, I mean, that's the reason that I'm coming to you, is I can see your authenticity, your experience, and I think experience drives we serve those that we better understand. So I think it's a very powerful community in what you're doing going forward as well.
I'm excited. I've been a little bit terrified, but I guess when you're doing something that feels scary, it must be good.
Yeah, exactly. Step outside of the comfort zone. Take your own advice. Is there anything that would stop you from making it happen, apart from fear of yourself? Is there anything stopping you?
So I would say fear is the only thing that would really stop me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it can at this point. I've kind of wrestled with it. I've had a really hard time feeling like, do I really want to do this? I feel so exposed. But at this point, I feel like my drive to help these women and to reach them and give them a place is way stronger than my fear at this point. So it's happening.
Okay. So it's bigger than you. It's greater than you.
Exactly. And once you cross over into that, I can't go back.
Okay, so there's so much there. So the last 3 questions.
Okay.
One of the other pieces of the research, and I talked about activities that you do with your kids, so it can be play, it can be make-believe play, different types of play, or what we call different types of sense-making activities. And one of the questions of the women in the summit, or the mothers in the summit, is what experiences do you want your kids to have that grow them and make sense of the world? And that might be different for the 3, but what experiences are you trying to give them to make sense of the world?
Yeah, I just feel like I have a lot of conversations with my kids about, just on a daily basis when things come up, and thinking about opening them up to other perspectives. So I feel like introducing your kids to different perspectives on things, different faiths, the way that people of different faiths see different things and how that impacts their life. And also really wanting my kids to be of service to other people and to participate in. And in fact, one of my dreams that I really would love to do in the next year or so is to take my kids on a mission trip where we go and we're helping the less fortunate and totally immersed in it. Okay. And so, but I feel like doing that, it can't help but change your perspective and open you up to what's possible and how you can make a difference.
Okay. That's a great experience to share with your kids. So second to last question. What's the one thing that you'd go back and tell pregnant you before you became a mom?
I tell her to buckle up. No, I would... I would just tell her to take it easy and to focus on the relationships, and that all of the details and all of the things that she's going to feel so afraid of, that they won't really matter in the long run. And just to stay present and enjoy those relationships, because that's what's going to last.
I totally agree.
And buckle up.
And buckle up. So there's two. You'd go and say one thing in one ear and the other in the other one.
Yeah.
And is there anything, so finally, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to share back with the summit?
Oh, yeah. I've got what I did is I went through all of my traps in my book and I put together some quick tips for the listeners of the summit.
Okay.
Yeah, so if they go to mollyclaire.com/happy mom tips,
okay,
they can go there and I have it's a quick hit list of the basic things to focus on and some ideas in there, because I know as moms we're all so busy and we just want something quick that we can grab onto.
Brilliant. And I'll also put the link on the summit page for all summit attendees in case you think, okay, I have to go press re-record or replay. And so
yeah, so it will be there. And then within the list, I also have a place they can download a free mini book that I have. So for those that want a little bit more than a quick tip list, that's there as well. So
amazing. Thank you very much. Wow, it was great to speak to you and all of the shares and it's so funny because a lot of what you said really resonates. So hopefully people really enjoyed this session.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been great. So, and I'm looking forward to listening to all the others as well.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Molly. Bye.
Okay. Have a great day.